Old Billy's departure left behind not just notes but revelations. In this episode, we confront one of his most provocative writings, The End of Death by Life. A text that dares to question politics, religion, and even our deepest fears about existence. It's a passionate call to awaken consciousness, abolish the illusion of death, and reclaim life in its fullest transcendent form.
Join us as Tiffany, Ava, and Dr. Gravana reflect, argue, and feel their way through Old Billy's words, where philosophy meets spirit and silence breaks into a river of living truth. Because sometimes, reading Old Billy is not about understanding with the mind, but awakening with the soul.
When the fog descended, silence settled over the village after the discovery of Old Billy's departure. His notes were left stacked, serving as entertainment for the locals who chose to share them with others.
Number 038. The End of Death by Life. The human race is essentially political, and in this condition, imbalances have existed. Dictatorships consolidated themselves based on what they made their people believe. Limitations were instilled in the poor so that they would work heavily for the wealthy, always walking in the same restrictive circle. Human evolution has been slow without the exploitation grounded in distortions of truth, conveniently kept in the dark. However, more important than dethroning any political regime is awakening the consciousness that we are spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. The obviousness of this fact is enough to illuminate the truth that frees us from the chains imposed by artificial human concepts responsible for the stagnation of our science and the atrophy of all laws that regulate human behavior. Therefore, bringing the truth about life that continues represents revolutionizing all the established perversity. But we were convinced to wait for the Messiah to do this work for us. Then time passes, and the individual battery runs out before we have dared to move forward in the discovery of ourselves. Speaking of discovery, we are the way, the truth, and the light. It was the lack of self-recognition that allowed all wars to be generated. It is the lack of consciousness of life that brought death to our minds. Then we decreed the end of full life, replacing it with something strictly rational that received an identity card and a social security number to give it importance. Spending an entire incarnation fearful of an inevitable transition. Can anything be less logical than this? How obvious must the obvious be to be noticed? Nature offers a basic time for a physical experience, and that should be enough. But intelligent humans prefer to replace this natural life with such a thinking race of nonsense, unable to connect the obvious right in front of their noses. Then come laws and more laws of limitations and subservience with a code of rights based on ignorance of what life truly is in its original simplicity. Oh, come on. How much land or gold or bonds or treasury bills can a being take with them to the next plane of this human experience? We are living beings, and we need to learn more about our true identity to learn another reality and update our physical experience rules. With other values and perspectives, guided by the unlimited condition of transcending and unifying multidimensional planes of consciousness. When we abdicate our original power, we set aside the energetic capacity to channel basic solutions for well-being. We know, and we have already proven our innate nuclear capacity in every smallest part of a body, which contains all the elements of the periodic table. Our physical body is the synthesis of the material world, and our brain can do much more than we dare to apply. The energy mass that leaves the body after death can already be weighed and monitored, leaving no doubt that this unfolding transfers our essence of life to another time-space reality. What a joy it is to know that by awakening consciousness and clearing our minds with the light of our own essences, we are dissolving the shadows cultivated by so many religions that failed to fulfill their purpose of relinking the consciousness of subtle bodies with the consciousness of the physical body. Instead, they invented twisted stories, created the concept of guilt, drew a paradise and gifted us with a hell, frightened the seers, and oppressed the sensitive people. They burned those who allowed themselves to bloom and instituted this terror of perpetual mental limitations. A humanity packed with death and without life. Now we enter schools where children are recognized and respected for their subtle abilities and learn to protect their connections with angels and multidimensional friends, becoming full adults with cosmic consciousness and the ability to cooperate in the natural expansion of living life. Life transforms the poor and limited human existence. Life tears open the chest and returns feeling and meaning to the hearts and minds of all. Giving space for life begins with the abolition of the manipulated concept of death. In obedience to living life, navigating the natural course, reason and feeling discover themselves, fall in love, marry, and procreate transcendental truth when emotion ensures harmonious balance without favoritism. Life frees death within each one, annihilating ignorance with the light of living essences in all and everything.
This particular text deeply affected our dear Tiffany. It seems to me that she was moved by the objectivity with which Old Billy approaches topics related to spiritual awakening, critique of societal limitations, the illusion of death, transcendence and multidimensionality, the power of consciousness, the importance of feeling and emotion. Using a balanced mix, Old Billy applies doses of passionate and revolutionary, esoteric and philosophical, critically of established institutions, hopeful and visionary, to point in the direction of a much greater perspective on human possibilities. So Ava, do you want to read and perhaps comment on the analysis left by our friend Tiffany, or do you prefer to go another way?
So Brian, I also read Tiffany's analysis, and it greatly influenced my own view of the text. It was as if Tiffany's written words found a different passage than the one through which I usually receive other people's ideas, and entered me through an alternative channel. I'm not referring to the emotional channel, which I know well, but rather something like a river whose waters had been replaced by feelings. Therefore, I don't want to comment on Tiffany's analysis. I prefer to just read, and I hope that the experience I had can be shared with all of you. Here it is. This text presents a passionate, philosophical, and somewhat esoteric argument about the nature of human existence, consciousness, and the limitations imposed by societal structures and traditional beliefs. Here's an analysis of its key themes and arguments. 1. Critique of political and societal structures. The text begins with a critique of political and societal imbalances, particularly dictatorships and the exploitation of the poor by the wealthy. It argues that these structures rely on the manipulation of truth and the suppression of knowledge to maintain control. This sets the stage for a broader critique of human-made, artificial concepts that limit human potential. 2. Spiritual awakening and consciousness. The central argument is that true liberation comes from a spiritual awakening, the realization that we are spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience. This awakening is seen as a revolutionary act that can dismantle the chains of societal and intellectual oppression. The text emphasizes self-discovery and the recognition of our inherent light and truth. 3. The illusion of death. A significant focus is on the concept of death, which the text portrays as an illusion created by a lack of consciousness. It argues that we have replaced a natural understanding of full life with a rational, limited view that emphasizes mortality. The fear of death is seen as illogical and a product of ignorance. 4. Transcendence and multidimensionality. The text advocates for transcending our current limitations and embracing a multidimensional understanding of reality. It suggests that we have innate nuclear capacity and that our brains are capable of much more than we realize. The concept of an energy mass that leaves the body after death is presented as evidence of a continuing existence beyond the physical. 5. Critique of religious institutions. Religious institutions are heavily criticized for failing to connect people with their true spiritual nature. They are accused of creating fear, guilt, and limitations through twisted stories and the concepts of paradise and hell. The text envisions a future where children are educated in cosmic consciousness and subtle abilities. 6. Emphasis on life and feeling. The text concludes with a powerful affirmation of life as a transformative force. It calls for the abolition of the manipulated concept of death and the embrace of feeling and emotion as pathways to truth. The idea of procreating transcendental truth through the union of reason and feeling is presented as a path to harmonious balance. The text blends spiritual concepts with social commentary, creating a unique and compelling vision of human potential and liberation.
Our colleague, Dr. Dustin Gravana, a psychiatrist, appears to have a differing perspective on Tiffany's text. Dr. Gravana, would you like to elaborate?
Psychiatry would approach the end of death by life with a focus on understanding the underlying psychological factors that might be contributing to its content, while also considering the individual's overall well-being. The myriad of mental disorders that could be correlated with this text is extensive, encompassing almost all known diagnoses and many that may be coined in the future. However, I'm not going to list any. This time, I'm going to risk a voluntary experiment in communicating with old Billy's notes as if the river of feelings mentioned by Ava were real. I want to give myself permission to expand my channels of perception. The worst that could happen is nothing happening, right?
Wow, Dr. Gravana, that is life that goes on.